Alright, we should be up and running. Let me, of course, I forget to tweak one thing here. Oh yeah, that and that. There we are. Sorry, probably a little bit more background noise, but it's gonna pick me up better. Or my name ain't better. It is though. So. A little bit better color-wise. So, today's character creation, as the title says, we're doing part 1 of Gimli from Lord of the Rings. I'm trying a new setup here, so we'll see how well this works. And I can type. So Gimli, I mean, obviously he's a dwarf. He's boisterous and full of bravado and pride. I didn't spell that correctly. And bravado and pride. Fights with an axe. Always up for a good fight and a good drink. So that's just kind of a little bit what we're gonna base Gimli off of here. There's probably more that we could put in about him, but I would say compared to some of the other ones, I mean, Aragorn would have the largest list of anybody out of the Lord of the Rings characters, maybe the exception of Gandalf. Gimli is just more of a straightforward character. So as I get stuff pulled up here, the little PSA I will do again for, let me see if I can pull it up quickly. Kickstarter and where is it? Somewhere up here. Maybe. Sorry, it's taking longer than I thought it was going to. I wasn't logged into my account, but it's again the project that I had found in, or that I knew about from the Catacon person I met at a Catacon, the RPG Dream Chaser. So just a little quick plug for this. This still has 15 days to go. It has reached 2 stretch goals, so we're getting a couple of things already. 3, well, 2. It's live. We're getting better pages for it and a supplement for it. Jim Dag, Kristen and I played a game with him and Pete at a Catacon, Nefertiti Overdrive. So that's cool that he is adding something. Bookmark's a decent next thing to break in or get. It'd be really cool to unlock another supplement. And so if you're on the fence about this, this is a project that I would definitely recommend checking out. Alright, and let's see, get back to this, probably this one. Yes, no, maybe. Oh. Okay. So, here we are, clean slate for our next character, Gimli. Gimli is definitely a mountain dwarf. He would prefer to be underground than above ground in Lord of the Rings. So let's look and see what benefits we get from being a mountain dwarf. We get to automatically start. Any dwarf gets +2 to Constitution. If you aren't looking at Unearthed Arcana, they actually created a sorcerer that works really well for dwarves. The Stone Sorcerer has some cool abilities, and yeah, just is generally pretty cool. And you get +2 to Strength as well. And let's face it, Gimli, those two are going to be our high stats. We actually get to start out with a couple things here. So we have proficiency with, let's see what it is, light and medium armor. Battle axe, hand axe, throwing hammer, and warhammer. We get those proficiencies from the class itself. We get proficiency with a tool, either smiths, brewers, or masons tools. I would say masons tools probably make the most sense. We are slower than everybody else, 25 feet that we can move. We also have our languages, probably should add those in there too. Dwarvish and Common. Finally, we have some abilities that we get with this. Dark Vision of 60 feet. It's the standard dark vision. The only race that I can think of in the base player's handbook that has superior dark vision is the drow. We also get Dwarven Resilience. How we can stay ahead in the drinking competitions. Advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. Finally, we have stone cutting. Let's see, we get to considered proficient in history on checks about stone, and double proficiency bonus. So it's kind of like how Gimli nerds out about the different caves that they go in. That's kind of what we're looking at here. So that's the base Dwarven characteristics for Gimli. And let's see. Creating a character. So we have our standard array. We're going to be we're going to be 17 on strength. No, we're going to be 16 on strength, which is a +3. Also a +3 on constitution. That's where our 17 is going to go. I feel like I missed something for dwarves here. Oh, no, it's for the other type of dwarf. I would say that we're probably going to have we have a 13, 12, 8, and 10 left. 8, 13, 12, so 10, we get a 0 there. We get -1 on our intelligence. We get a +1 with our 13 there. And we get a +1 on our dex. Proficiency bonus, of course, starts at 2. Our initiative bonus is going to be a +1. So let's talk a little bit about how I'm going to pick out what's the build for Gimli. Is he going to be for Legolas, he's ranger. For Aragorn, he was fighter with some ranger. How are we going to build Gimli? I think that there are 2 classes that make sense for Gimli, and I'm not sure if I'm going to dip at all into the second one. I probably will. So if you're familiar with Critical Role, you are then familiar with Grog. Grog is a half giant, I believe, or a giant, half giant barbarian. Recently, Grog has been taking levels in fighter. We're going to run something very similar to that. Gimli is, in very many ways, he's always ready to rush into battle. And as a barbarian, that's kind of what you're built to do. Now with barbarian, it's very common not to have armor that you wear. However, I think in this case, Gimli always wears armor, so let's see. Gimli. Just pull this up over here. A dwarf warrior. And let's see. What I'm curious about, and why I'm looking at this, I want to know what sort of background for Gimli we have. Interesting. So what I'm trying to do here is pick out what a good background for him might be, and that's why I brought that up there. And I think different backgrounds that we can kind of look at and kind of just even flip through quickly here. somewhere in here. Here we are. So, acolyte, no. Charlatan, no. Criminal, no. Entertainer, no. I mean, he's entertaining, but not an entertainer. Folk hero, he descended from one. Guild artisan, we don't really hear that he's much of a guild merchant. Hermit, no, not really. Noble, that's probably going to be about the closest. Outlander, sage, or sailor, or soldier. He's probably a soldier, actually. I forgot that was a background. So he gets athletics, that's acrobatics, athletics and intimidation. He probably, I think in Middle Earth they would probably play cards. So he's proficient with cards and land vehicles. And let's see, we're not doing equipment. And we're not going to really give him a military rank. He would just, like, he's not completely a soldier in the sense of the word, but it's going to give us likely some information that will make sense for him. Like, Bond, my honor is my life. Like, we see him in Return of the King basically suck it up and go into the cave with Legolas because Legolas goes in first. And he's like, it's underground. I can't be shown up by an elf. I think this one makes sense. I have little respect for someone who isn't a warrior. It's, I mean, you'd have to play around with it a little bit because he clearly does respect the hobbits and what they have to do, but I would say that is fairly accurate for him. For an ideal, I do what I must and obey just authority. And finally, personality traits. I'll say this out loud as I do this because I know my picture covers it up a little bit, which is annoying. I enjoy being strong and like to break things. This is a funny one. This one is right. I face problems head on. That is Gimli. If he can't kill it, he probably just hasn't tried hard enough yet. Let's actually pull up Gimli again here. Yeah, so he really runs with an axe a lot. And I want to pull up some images here because I forget. Yeah, so he would have his big two-handed axe, but then as well as some of these are still large axes. They would just be throwing axes. So when we go down here to weapons, we have a great axe and hand axe, 2x. That's how many we have of them. We're going to wield both of them. Hand axe, thrown. So these are going to be off of strength thrown is off of Dex. So great axe, 2 hand axes, and let's flip over here again and kind of look. So he looks like he's wearing chainmail. So he'd have like an explorer, he'd have a Dungeoneer's pack. And Chainmail Armor. So let's quickly finish statting some of that out here. And one of these days I will actually get this taken care of. So Chainmail Armor, where he actually is going to get a chain shirt. Chainmail Armor, you need to be proficient with heavy armor, and I don't think we're going to give him that with Barbarian. But what we're going to see is that while having a low armor class here, and a Barbarian is almost always better suited to, especially if you're going strength-based Barbarian, which it makes the most sense, is going to be suited to doing the Unarmored Defense. But Gimli is not an unarmored dwarf, so we'll just do 1d6 plus 3 slashing. The Great Axe is 1d12 plus 3 slashing. And throwing, this is going to be 1d6 plus 1 slashing. Now, most of the time, there are some creatures that slashing damage will not do as much damage, or slashing and piercing and bludgeoning would be better, which is why they give you the different types of damage in here. But a lot of the times, most monsters that deal with that are going to then have resistance to all types of physical damage. So it can matter some for picking your damage types in an actual D&D game, but in this case it makes sense. So let's flip back. It's a bard. So we have our Barbarian here. Rage. First level, we get Rage. I should do some of the other stuff first. So he actually starts with 15 hit points because he has 1, and then it's a d12. And I would say he's probably lawful neutral, maybe probably lawful good. Out of all of them, he's a little bit more of that. We get simple, we can add it in here. Simple weapons, martial weapons. See if I spelled that correct. I'm pretty sure I didn't. Wrong type of martial. Martial weapons. And his saving throws are strength and con. He's already a dwarf, so these are not ideal saving throws to have. He's going to be kind of weak in the saving throw department in many ways. The int being a -1 doesn't help. +1 and 0 on charisma. So, at least we have +1 or better in the most important ones, which are Dex, Con, and Wisdom. And we get to choose 2 skills from Animal Handling, Athletics, Intimidation, Nature, Perception, and Survival. I would say perception, and so I want to do an article, and it might be this is getting all it should depend, or maybe even the rate. So let's see, it looks like it's back to full strength here. It was down on my software end, so hopefully the non-software side of things is going to catch up soon, and hopefully it turns out to be a good live video. Because of that, I am going to quickly go through and write in what Rage does. So Rage, we have currently 2 uses per day, lasts 1 minute if you attack or take damage, otherwise it ends. Currently we'd be sitting at, let's see, what is it? +2 damage. +2 damage on attacks while raging. And this is with strength-based weapons. I'm not gonna set that apart. It doesn't really matter in his case. He's always going to be using it strength-based. And we have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Bludgeoning. Oh my goodness. Piercing and slashing damage. So with that, that's where we're going to end adding stuff to his character sheet for tonight. I'm planning on being back again on Thursday, but I do want to talk about one thing quickly here, which is what you normally are going to do with a barbarian, and that is unarmored defense. The reason you're probably going to do that is, I mean, right now it would not make a difference for him, because it is 10 plus dexterity plus constitution. So it allows you, all I have to do is at level 4 increase constitution by 1, and I have a better armor class. However, as I said before, Gimli doesn't just fight in a shirt, like just regular clothes. He wears armor. So because he wears armor, we are moving away from the unarmored defense, even though that might be a little bit worse for him. Anyways, you all saw me save it. I'm going to close out of this now, and I'll close out of this after I finish this stream. But I'm going to wrap up now, and I will be back on Thursday, probably about 5:30 again, to continue showing stuff off. And with that, peace.